You came to Nottingham to do a master's degree in psychology. What was your aim in doing that?
I think a few things really. I was at a time in my life where I needed quite a big change for various reasons. I was a bit stuck and I wasn't quite sure what to do next, and I sort of started investigating various other career paths. And I moved to Nottingham. I didn't know a soul here. I just moved. I picked the course because I loved the sound of the course, and I gradually narrowed it down between various unis across the UK. And my aim was to train to be a clinical psychologist, which is something that's still on the horizon, although I've become a lot more interested in educational psychology. And then more recently in lots of other things, and I ended up falling back into music, as you do, and that was partly because of needing to earn a living, and it's what I'd always done, and it was partly because I love music and it was a very natural thing, and the jobs came up and I went for them. But yes, it was initially that to get an extra qualification that was something that's not music, and as I say, to have a big change. And I've always had an interest in psychology. I did psychology A-level, and when I was 19, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, which was a very, very hard time, and it came completely out of the blue. I still don't quite understand where it came from. It was sort of very sudden, just before I went to music college, and that year just before, I was on a gap year. I was working in my mum's office in London, and I think that experience, whilst it was horrible, and well, that's an understatement, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, it certainly shaped me as a person, and I don't think I've been the same since that, really. And it just made me realise that people are so complicated, and you just never know what's going on with somebody, and it's made me a lot more empathetic and slower to judge, and it just made me want to understand myself more, and made me want to understand others more. So I think that will have definitely been a contributing factor to me wanting to potentially train as a psychologist in the future.
Does knowing some psychology help you to deal with the occasional difficult character that we find in choirs? I'm thinking of maybe the temperamental soprano or the tuneless bass.
Well, I wouldn't ever use those terms to describe a particular voice part. I have to say that and be very clear about that. I know there are stereotypes out there, but they're not ones that I endorse. I think they're two different things there. Tuneless is one thing. I mean, most people can sing in tune, and if people are singing out of tune, it's usually because of tension or anxiety or something technical where they need to create more space or change the vowel a bit or listen more to themselves, or crucially listen more to each other. So I think that really is that's where my training in singing is really helpful, and for other things that I lack as a conductor, hopefully I make up for in that. So I'm quite good at getting people to make a good sound, and tuning is something that I think is I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it's so important, and it often gets sort of left by the wayside because you think, oh well, this is an amateur choir, well, what do you expect? But actually people can sing in tune. Tuning's it's not hard to get right if you are given the right kind of guidance. As for temperamental, I think, as I said, I don't think that's any more sopranos than any other voice type. I've done enough conducting and sung with enough professional choirs and done many recordings where tensions run high to know that everybody has moments where our inner 3-year-old comes out and our toys come out the pram. And actually those moments are pretty rare when I'm conducting the choirs that I conduct. But when it happens, I'm not sure it's the psychology masters that's helped. That certainly opened my mind and it was incredibly interesting. But I think for all my faults and failings, of which there are many, one of the things I'm good at that comes pretty naturally is empathizing and making people feel at ease. And I always try to do this as much as possible when I'm leading choirs, whether it's with 30 children or adults or 400 children in an assembly hall. You just don't know what's going on in somebody else's life, and there's all sorts of reasons as to why somebody could be difficult, and they might be tired, and they might be stressed, and they might have had a bad day or a bad year. They might be nervous, they might be anxious. So I try as much as I can to remember all of that and to lead with compassion and to be encouraging and enthusiastic and forgiving. And obviously there are occasions where you have to put your foot down if somebody's rude to you, if they're unkind. But generally these are few and far between, and usually it's more about people needing a bit of reassurance or for me to be a bit clearer. So what I tend to do when something like that happens, and it is difficult, but I often feel that choirs are like a mirror of you, and the first thing I will do if I'm getting sort of stressed or anxious looking faces or the odd comment is I'll think, okay, am I projecting this? Am I in a bit of a bad mood today, or am I being a bit tense or stressy? Because often you'll find that if you're leading and with that kind of attitude, that's what you're going to get back. So the first thing I do is try and think, okay, what can I do? Can I relax? Can I try and make a joke here? Let's cheer us all up a little bit. So humour is very important as well.
Your next record, please.
My next record is it's from Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet, and I love the whole thing. But this movement is Juliet as a young girl, and it never fails to cheer me up. It's so exciting. It's such brilliant writing of using all the different instruments in the orchestra. The strings in it are particularly exciting. And I remember going to see ballets with my mum and with my grandma, which again I recognise as a huge privilege because it instilled this love of ballet in me from a very young age. And I've seen this ballet, and this is just the best scene. It's so exciting, and it's the whole sort of promise of something exciting about to happen, and it's got the excitement of this young girl running around the place, and then there's moments of it that are very slow and romantic, and then it's back to her running around the place, and it's just fantastic. It's amazing.